Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Harper, and it is just me today. No guest. I thought I would just have this episode, just you and I, doing a little jamming, a little one on one, if you don't mind. I'm going to do that from time to time. I have had a number of listeners that are like, hey, we love the interviews, but hey, man, we'd like to just hear from you occasionally. What's going on in your world? What's happening? And so from time to time, I'll just pop on here and do some episodes, whatever's on the top of my mind at the time, and just do a little jamming with you if you don't mind. I was looking back at just the podcast. I was just this year we've had some amazing guests. I am started with Dr. Jenna Valentine, Susie Turner. Had Ted Rubin on. Ted and I got to meet at South by Southwest just a couple weeks ago. It was great, right? Ted and I have known each other for, I think we were guessing over 10 years, but this was the first time we actually got to hang out. We had dinner, and he invited me to a function called Brand Innovators. Got to meet so many amazing people from some of the top brand companies that you would be familiar with. I felt like I was a fish out of water, to be honest, but Ted made it so welcoming and so awesome to introduce me to people and just had some great conversations. I really enjoyed the entire experience. But the highlight for me in that whole South by Southwest experience was spending time with Ted. He's a guy that I've really come to admire. We have very similar philosophies. He has return on relationship. I have, obviously the ripple effect, but we are both focused on the same things. Why organizations and individuals need to focus in on the critical aspects of relationships with your customers, with your personal and your professional network. It's all the same, right? And so we have a lot of similar philosophies, similar approaches. And that's what I loved about just spending time with him, getting to hear about his experience and what he does and how he has really turned this into such a magnificent career. He's a big inspiration to me for what he does and how authentic he is. And so I was really grateful to have him on at the end of February for the podcast. It was long overdue. We had a great episode, just learning about his life and his approach. And he had a story that just stood out to me about his really unique experience with his wrestling coach and what a significant difference that had made in his life. And if you've been a follower of my podcast for a while, I had a similar experience with Mr. Stevenson, my DECA advisor and marketing education teacher. He's the whole reason I became an entrepreneur. I mean, he is the one that inspired and motivated that. And so Ted and I really had that in common as well. So just had a great time. But I've had Amy Edwards. She's a awesome, amazing podcast host in her own right. The Amy Edwards Show over on Spotify. She's lights up the screen. She's just got such great energy, such enthusiasm. My good friend Rami Jahidi with Talk to Rami podcast was on as well. Just this year, this podcast has brought to you several amazing people. I hope you're enjoying those episodes. And I hope you're going back and listening to them again, because I'm actually hearing from several of our audience members that they're picking up new ideas and new thoughts as they're going back and re-listening. So listen for pleasure to start, but then go back and take some of the nuggets that these amazing ripplers are actually leaving for you, because it can make a difference in your personal, in your professional life. Well, I mentioned I was going to talk about themes, right? Occasionally something that, might be on my mind. And as I was looking back through the podcast and all the amazing guests that I've had, one of the things that really made me smile was how I think I have found my mojo, that I've figured this out. Like I said, getting to produce these podcasts have really given me some, unique challenges, pushed my limits in terms of whether I could do what I needed to do in order to produce this, this show and others. It broadened my skill sets, which I am really proud of. But it's also helped me connect with some amazing people that I, would not have otherwise had an opportunity to get to know. Amy Edwards, a perfect example. I mean, she's just a phenomenal podcast host. Angela Gagarno is coming up soon. She is an American Ninja Warrior, and she and I just recorded an episode, and we just had such an amazing time on that episode. Learned so much about her commitment, her will to be an entrepreneur. And these people have been absolute inspirations to me, and so part of what is really pushed me outside my comfort zone is reaching out to people that I've long since admired, and then having the gumption, right? Uh, the cojones, if you will, to ask them, hey, would you come on my show, share some of your great inspirational story with my audience? And the whole time I'm just like, man, I'm trying to be in the moment. I would like to just be taking copious notes. I come prepared for these interviews. I got questions. I got a lot of questions. Never get to any, it doesn't seem like I never get to half of what I want to ask. But I am learning so much from these people. And so for me, it has been like a masterclass every time going back to these episodes and actually learning from these people myself and actually going, oh, I'm glad I went and listened to that episode again because I picked up this nugget or that nugget and have really, really enjoyed that experience. And I hope you have as well, because it is really, really the goal, right? The central goal behind why I'm bringing these guests to you, because they are creating positive ripples out there in the world, and they may just inspire you on to your next step in greatness. But it also sort of, kind of bubbled up this weekend how proud I am that I actually am taking this chance for someone that is self-described introverted and shy, reaching out and saying, "Hey, would you come on my little show?" My audience would love to hear from you and learn from you. And people are like, "Yeah, I don't know you. Who are you? What's up?" It it uh, it's both humbling and inspiring to me that I've been able to step out of my comfort zone to reach out and say, hey, like, I would really love to have you on. I'd love to interview you. I was thinking last year when I featured Lynn Smith, who had been on the Today Show and finished up her broadcast career at CNN Headline News. And to me, she's a rock star, just one of the best interviewers I've seen. She has this just personality that just lights up the screen. She's incredible. But I reached out to her and I said, hey, would you be open to coming on the show? And it was like, I'm swinging for the fences on this one. And I was super nervous. And she's like, well, how big's your audience? Tell me a little bit about the show. She did her own homework and she still came on. And she said, she doesn't just accept those offers. So she did her homework. She did her due diligence, if you will. And she said, the guests that you've had on, the people that you are bringing to the surface for other people to learn and get to know is really great. And so when I did the interview, I was like super nervous, right? Because I'm like, she's been on national broadcast television, right? She is the professional interviewer. And yet somehow when we clicked to record and I dove in, I maybe was a little nervous at the very beginning, but I felt like it was just a conversation between friends. And we've since established a friendship, and I'm so grateful for that. But I told her at the very end, I was like super nervous because she's a rock star in her field. She now does media training, and she's incredible at what she's doing there. You definitely want to go over and check out Lynn Smith's Green Room. If you ever have to be on camera, give big presentations for your work, she is the bomb. She can actually help you feel confident and more secure in doing whatever it is that you do, presenting that out there into the world. But when I told her I was really uncomfortable or felt like I was super nervous, she was like, I did not feel that. She's like, you handled it like a seasoned professional. You were really, really good at the keeping the conversation flow going, keeping it interesting. And that just made all the difference for me. And I guess the reason I share that with you is that, we all have the one thing that often holds us back, right? That often we don't feel like we're good enough. We don't feel like we are strong enough, that we'll never be smart enough. We'll never be able to do it like everybody else does. But when you actually find that you can, and you do, sort of like what I'm doing, it is probably one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself, is to pull yourself up from your own bootstraps and actually pay attention to what you're doing and recognize that, you may not be as polished or as professional out there as other people, or you may not necessarily have the pedigree or the education or the background as other people, but it doesn't mean that you don't have the grit, the determination, and the ability to do your thing in the way that you were intended to do it. And for me, I've always struggled with self-confidence in that regard. It's always been a challenge for me. And especially as I started to open myself up into this genre, it was scary as, all get out. But I look back now and I look at all the interviews we've done. I've looked at all the episodes that we've put together, and I just smile. I'm just super proud of myself for getting the show to this point. And I don't know what the future holds. I don't know where it goes, but I do know that I'm really good at cultivating content, bringing amazing people to the forefront, and putting them out there for you to get to know, to learn from, and hopefully reach out and say, hey, I heard you on the Ripple Effect podcast and wanted to tell you good job. And that may spin up a conversation and may take all sorts of different directions for you because you're taking your own swing at the bat and taking your own chance to connect. But that's what has been great for me is it has really given me a new layer of confidence, a new layer of self-confidence. And so there's really nobody. I was talking to Cynthia Berg, who's helping me with the Ripple membership the other day. It's like, there's nobody that I'm afraid to reach out to, right? Because the worst thing that they can say now is no. And then when they say yes, that's when I get the pucker factor a little bit. It's like, oh God, what am I going to say? How am I, what am I going to ask? What am I going to do? But I always figure it out. I have confidence and belief in myself now that I can at least do that. I try and show up as prepared as I possibly can. Some interviews go exactly the way I planned it. Most do not. We go off different directions because I'm a naturally inquisitive individual, and something will be said that really bears going into a lot deeper. It is, it has really been a fascinating experience for me. So I don't know what your potential challenge might be out there in the world, what you're dealing with in terms of struggle and self-confidence, but I can promise you this. You will feel like $1,000,000 if you can lean into it and somehow just find a way to make a small inroad of improvement to overcome whatever that is, right? Maybe you won't fully overcome it. I still have doubts. I still have a lot of self-confidence challenges. I still am introverted and shy when it comes to this stuff, but it does give me this sense of superpower when it does go off and it goes off well. And I am so grateful that I have taken this chance. I've placed the bet on myself to build my brand in this way, to get to know so many amazing people. I look back and think how many of these people have now become friends and how many of them are contributing to my life in ways that had nothing or have nothing to do with our show. There's no coming at me with, any intent of anything other than contributing a positive ripple in my life. And I wish to do the same for them. This has expanded my network and my reach just in my own personal reach in so many ways. And I'm so grateful for that. But whatever that it is for you, I say lean into it. I say embrace it. Screw the fear, dive in anyway and see what happens. And I would also put in a plug here for professional coaching, not just from me, right? But anybody who will just be there to keep you on the rails and make sure that you're moving in a forward, positive progress way on whatever it is that you want to accomplish. And it's super helpful to do this not isolated or alone in a vacuum. Having somebody in your corner to support you, to guide you, to direct you when you need it, especially in those moments when you have those crises of self-confidence. I cannot tell you enough how important having a coach at your fingertips, right? Either via keyboard or being able to pick up the phone and call them and say, look, I'm struggling here, or I'm really about to walk into this big job interview, or I'm about to, take on this big challenge and I just don't know if I can do it. Having somebody in your corner to say, yes, you can, you can, here's what you need to do, to overcome some of these, this fear and trepidation that you're feeling, because it's a momentary storm and you'll get through it. You need to pass through it. You need to take this step. Coaching can really be that for you. You might be thinking, well, who did you seek out for guidance and expertise when you started your podcast? I reached out to a number of podcasters. I asked them what they were doing, how they were doing it, how they overcame some of their fear of asking for a guest who might say, hey, your audience is too small. I don't want to go on there. Or, just having the courage to pick up the phone and call somebody to ask them, because it's kind of like asking for a date. It's scary, right? But I got some great tips and some great advice along the way. And when things didn't exactly go the way I expected them to, I had those people to fall back on. They became my resources. They were coaching me through that process. And I look back at my earlier episodes. I heard somebody say the other day, you look back at your earlier videos or your earlier podcast episodes, if they don't just make you cringe, then you can't appreciate how far you've come. They do make me cringe a little bit, but it also gives me a smile because I know how hard I was putting all my energy and effort towards and how much it was wrapped in my heart that I wanted to contribute this somehow in the world. So I knew my motivations. I knew my desire. I just needed somebody there to keep nudging me along. And so that's true for just about everything big that we want to accomplish, isn't it? You need somebody in your corner. They're committed to helping you get through this next phase of whatever it is, right? Or to accomplish that goal or meet that objective or finish that project or make that call, open the dialogue between that relationship, or that person that you want to build the relationship with, or you want to repair that relationship with. Doesn't hurt to have somebody there that can support you and keep you focused on why you're doing what it is that you're doing in order to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. So that's my plug, right? Not a commercial necessarily for coaching, but a certain endorsement for having people at the ready that are there prepared to help you in whatever you want to come up against or you want to try and accomplish. So hopefully you've picked up a few tips. I would encourage you to go back and just tell me, hey, what were some of your favorite episodes from the Ripple Effect podcast? What were some of your favorite guests? Who do you want to hear back? Who do you want to have come back so that you can hear more from them about their stories or their ideas? I'd love to hear from you. So drop me a line, steve@ripplecentral.com. Tell me what some of your favorite episodes are. Tell me, some of the nuggets that you've picked up and how you've applied it. Because if I could go back to my guests with those emails and say, hey, look what you did. Look at the ripple you created from being on this show. And I just want to thank you for that. I know that would make a huge difference, right? Those things have and make an impact in people's lives. And people want to know that whatever they're saying, whatever they're doing has some value, right? I want to know that. I know you'd want to know that. My guests, of course, want to know that. So go back, look at all the litany of guests that we've had, and tell me who some of your favorites are. Tell me what you're learning from them. And, if you can, find them on social and reach out to them and tell them, hey, look, I really enjoyed that episode you did with Steve. And thanks for the ripple. Here's what I learned. That would be a huge way to get your ripple process going with them, right? You just may never know where that conversation may lead, what opportunities might come about because of that. You never know, because if you don't try, you'll never know, right? So there you go. There's my challenge. There's the gauntlet. That's what I'm asking you to do. So give it a whirl. Let me know what you think. And let me just say thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in to the Ripple Effect podcast. It is an honor to bring this show to you. Every episode is filled with love and full on heart, right? For you guys. And hopefully I'm making a difference in some way, shape, or form. And for me, my last request for you, if there's a topic you want me to explore, having somebody on, a guest that you think would be great for the podcast, refer them to me, or, send me a line, steve@ripplecentral.com. Tell me to check out, tell me to check them out. Or if there's a topic you just want me to talk about, kind of like you and I are talking about now, right? You want me to jam on something specific, I am more than capable and happy to do so. All right. So in the meantime, I want you to go out there, make a difference in someone's life, make a difference in your own life, and you will make a huge difference out there in the world. I promise you. And as always, ripple on.